Before the crown, before the palace, before the Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, the memoir, the global headlines, the royal wedding watched by 2 billion people, there was a different man, a quieter man, a Hollywood producer who fell in love with an ambitious young actress at a dive bar in West Hollywood, who dated her for 7 years, who married her on a beach in Jamaica with 102 of their closest friends, and who one summer morning received a package in the mail. Inside that package were 2 rings, a diamond engagement ring, a wedding band, and no letter, no phone call, no conversation, just the rings, returned like a package that no longer fit. His name is Trevor Engelson. And while the world spent years obsessing over Meghan Markle's royal transformation, this man, the one who knew her before all of it, who loved her before the world knew her name, chose silence. He turned down book deals. He declined interviews. He walked away from million-dollar offers to tell his story. And in that silence, he built an entirely new life. Tonight, we are telling the full, verified story of Meghan's first marriage. The Jamaica wedding nobody talks about. The divorce that blindsided everyone who knew them. The rings in the mail. The silence Trevor kept. And the extraordinary life he built after the woman he loved walked into the arms of a prince. This is the story before the royal story. And in many ways, it is more human than anything that came after. Welcome to Royal Report Daily, your #1 destination for real royal news, verified investigations, and the stories the palace doesn't want you to find. I'm your host, and if you are new here, subscribe right now and hit that notification bell, because what we cover on this channel, you will not find anywhere else. Every single week, we go deeper, we go further, and we go to places the mainstream media is too afraid to touch. Tonight is one of those nights. Let's get into it. Let's start at the beginning. Because Trevor Engelson is not a tabloid character. He is a real person with a real career and a real life that exists completely outside the royal story, even though the world tried very hard to drag him into it. Trevor was born on October 23, 1976, in Long Island, New York. He studied journalism at the University of Southern California, the same university Meghan would later attend. He built his career in Hollywood the slow, unglamorous way, starting as a production assistant, learning the business from the bottom up, eventually founding his own production company called Underground Films and building a reputation as a solid, respected producer and literary manager. His biggest film credit is the 2010 Robert Pattinson movie Remember Me, a film that, in a detail that feels almost too cinematic, featured a small cameo from a young actress named Meghan Markle. His other credits include Snowfall, The After Party, License to Wed, Heathers, and several other projects that established him as a genuine working professional in a competitive industry. Trevor Engelson is not famous. He has never sought fame. He has spent his entire career doing the quiet, essential work of bringing other people's stories to screen. And that quality, the preference for backstage over spotlight, tells you something important about who he is and how he handled everything that happened next. If you want the full picture of the man Meghan loved before Harry, subscribe to Royal Report Daily right now. Because what comes next is the part of this story most people have never heard told completely. The story of Trevor and Meghan begins in 2004. Not in a palace, not at a Hollywood premiere, not at a carefully curated industry event. At a dive bar in West Hollywood. Meghan was 23. Trevor was 28. She was a young actress trying to get her career moving, going to auditions, picking up a side job as a hostess in Beverly Hills, taking small roles where she could find them. One of those small roles was as a briefcase model on the game show Deal or No Deal. Not exactly the red carpet. Just a young woman with enormous ambition trying to find her footing in one of the most competitive industries on earth. Trevor, already established in the industry with his production company, was the kind of person who could open doors. But by every account from people who knew them, what they had was not a calculated connection. It was a genuine relationship. They dated for 6 years. 6 years. That is not a casual romance. That is a serious, committed, long-term partnership. They were together through the lean years of her career, through the grinding auditions and the small parts and the uncertainty that every actor lives with before the moment everything changes. And then, in 2010, Trevor proposed. And Meghan said yes. On September 10, 2011, Meghan Markle and Trevor Engelson were married at the Jamaica Inn in Ocho Rios, Jamaica. And this was not a small, quiet event. This was a 4-day celebration, 102 guests, a beach resort, dancing that reportedly started the moment the vows were exchanged. Bridesmaids including Meghan's closest friend Nanaki Pretty, who had known her since childhood and who served as maid of honor. By every account from people who were there, it was a genuinely joyful, warm, deeply personal wedding. A bridesmaid told royal biographer Andrew Morton in his 2018 book Meghan, A Hollywood Princess, and these are the exact words, "It was such a moving wedding. I started crying the moment I saw her in her dress." Guests were given hemp gift bags with local Jamaica souvenirs. The ceremony itself lasted only 10 minutes, according to reports, but the party that followed went on for 4 days. It was the wedding of two people who genuinely loved each other, surrounded by the people who knew them best. No cameras from outside, no media coverage, no royal protocol. Just Meghan and Trevor and their closest friends on a beach in Jamaica. And that detail matters, because 7 years later, the world would watch Meghan marry a prince in a ceremony broadcast to 2 billion people. But the first time she said "I do," nobody was watching. It was private, personal, and real. Like this video right now if this story is showing you something about Meghan's journey you have never fully understood before. And subscribe to Royal Report Daily, because what comes next is where things start to go wrong. The same year they got married, 2011, Meghan landed the role that would change her life forever. Rachel Zane on the USA Network legal drama Suits. It was a real breakthrough. A substantial, recurring role on a successful show. The kind of opportunity every actor spends years hoping for. But it came with a complication. Suits filmed in Toronto, Canada. Trevor's production company was based in Los Angeles. And suddenly, a couple who had spent 6 years building a life together in the same city found themselves in different countries, seeing each other every 2 or 3 weeks at best. Royal correspondent Ashley Pearson, speaking in the Channel 5 documentary Meghan Markle, Movies, Marriages, and Motherhood, described what happened with simple clarity. She said, "As soon as they married, she got the gig on Suits and she was in Toronto and he was in LA. The relationship just didn't last." Andrew Morton's biography added another layer to the picture. He wrote that as Meghan's career accelerated in Toronto, Trevor's was, in his words, treading water in Los Angeles. That gap, between a rising star and a partner whose trajectory was less dramatic, created its own quiet pressure. None of this means anyone was at fault. Long-distance marriages are genuinely difficult. Career imbalances create genuine strain. These are human problems, not scandals. But they are the real reasons that the marriage that began on that beach in Jamaica began to fracture. Quietly, without drama, until the summer of 2013 when the fracture became a break. In the summer of 2013, Meghan announced the marriage was over. And the way she did it, the detail that has been talked about ever since, is the rings in the mail. According to Andrew Morton's biography, citing a wealthy entrepreneur friend of the couple, Meghan returned her diamond engagement ring and wedding band to Trevor by registered mail. Not a conversation, not a phone call, not even a letter. Just the rings, packaged up and sent. That detail landed like a stone in the pool of public opinion. It was widely described as cold, hurtful, a gesture that communicated finality without offering the dignity of a real goodbye. Meghan's former best friend Nanaki Pretty, the same woman who had been maid of honor at the Jamaica wedding, spoke to the Daily Mail in 2017 as Harry and Meghan's relationship became public. She said something that many people who knew the couple have echoed in different ways. She said Trevor definitely had the rug pulled out from under him. He was hurt. Morton's biography described the ending as totally out of the blue, shocking to friends who had seen no signs that the marriage was in serious trouble. Sources described Trevor as feeling like a piece of something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. Those were harsh words from people who knew him. They spoke to a level of hurt that went beyond the ordinary sadness of a marriage ending. This was a man who had been with this woman for 7 years, married her on a beach in front of all his friends, and then received the physical symbol of their marriage in a postal package with no explanation. Whatever Meghan's reasons, and only she truly knows them, the way the marriage ended left a wound that the people around Trevor talked about for years. Do not go anywhere. Subscribe to Royal Report Daily and turn on notifications, because the next stage is about what Trevor did after all of this. And it will genuinely surprise you. When Prince Harry and Meghan's engagement was announced in November 2017, The world went looking for Trevor Engelson. Every major tabloid and media outlet wanted him. The story of the first husband, the man Meghan left before she became royalty, was worth an enormous amount of money. Book deals were reportedly offered. Interview requests flooded in. $1 million advances were dangled in front of a man who, by Hollywood standards, was not wealthy enough to dismiss them casually. And Trevor said no to all of it. He left the country entirely during the week of the royal wedding in May 2018, reportedly to avoid the media circus and any temptation to comment. He gave no interviews. He released no statement. He wrote no book. He posted nothing on social media about Meghan, about the wedding, about any of it. The silence was total, and in its totality, it communicated something powerful. That Trevor Engelson, whatever pain he carried from that relationship, had decided not to let it define him. Had decided that whatever he knew, whatever he saw, whatever he experienced during those 7 years with Meghan, was not for sale. There was reportedly one exception. According to sources, including comments attributed to Bethany Frankel, who briefly dated Trevor after his divorce, he did, at some point, describe feeling deeply hurt by how things ended. He reportedly used the phrase feeling like a piece of gum at the bottom of her shoe to describe the experience. But even that was a private comment, not a public statement, not a book, not an interview, not a tweet, just the honest words of a man processing heartbreak in private. And then he moved on. Here is a detail that is almost too perfectly Hollywood to be real. In 2017, the same year Harry and Meghan's relationship became public, Trevor Engelson was reportedly in development on a TV project, a divorce comedy, about a man whose ex-wife marries a prince. The project was reported by Deadline Hollywood. It was described as a comedy in which the ex-husband has to navigate shared custody with a new wife who is now royal. Whether this was Trevor's way of processing his own story, or simply a producer recognizing a commercially viable premise, or some mixture of both, nobody outside his inner circle knows. What is known is that the project never got made. It was developed and then quietly shelved. Trevor did not pursue it to production. Whether that was a creative decision, a legal consideration, or simply a choice not to keep the story alive, again, only he knows. But the existence of that project, the brief moment when it looked like Trevor might tell a version of his story through the safe distance of fiction, and then his decision not to, speaks to the same quality that defined his entire response to the situation. Restraint, dignity, a preference for moving forward over looking back. Like this video if Trevor's story is resonating with you. And subscribe to Royal Report Daily, because the next 2 stages are about the life he built after Meghan. And it is genuinely beautiful. And now we get to the part of this story that rarely gets told, because most coverage of Trevor Engelson begins and ends with his connection to Meghan. But his life after that connection is its own remarkable story. After his divorce from Meghan was finalized in 2014, Trevor dated briefly, including a reported brief relationship with Bethany Frankel, the businesswoman and television personality. But then he met someone. Her name is Tracy Corland, a nutritionist and dietitian from a successful family. They began dating in 2017. And then, in a timing that must have felt at least slightly surreal, exactly 2 weeks after Meghan married Prince Harry at Windsor Castle in May 2018, Trevor proposed to Tracy in Napa Valley on May 11, 2019. Just days after the birth of Meghan and Harry's son Archie, Trevor and Tracy were married. In Montecito, California, the same town where Harry and Meghan would later buy their $14 million home. The ceremony was relaxed and joyful. The rehearsal dinner featured a pink suit for Trevor, loose waves for Tracy, and a polka dot bow. Sources describe the couple as literally glowing. And then the family grew. In August 2020, Trevor and Tracy welcomed their first daughter, Ford Grace Engelson. Trevor announced it on social media with the words, "World, meet baby girl Ford Grace Engelson. My wife is a beautiful champion. I am officially the happiest guy I know." In November 2021, they welcomed their second daughter, Sienna Lee Engelson. Trevor posted, "I am the luckiest guy I know." And in February 2025, they welcomed a third child, a son, 3 children, a stable, loving marriage, a continued career in Hollywood, and by every observable measure, a man who chose happiness over bitterness and built something real on the other side of his heartbreak. So what does all of this actually tell us? Not about scandal, Not about secrets, but about the real, human story underneath the royal one. Meghan Markle did not arrive in Harry's life as a fully formed duchess. She arrived as a person who had already lived an entire life, who had loved and been loved, who had made choices that hurt someone who cared for her, who had walked away from something real in pursuit of something bigger. That is not a condemnation. It is simply the truth of a human life. All of us carry the versions of ourselves that existed before we became who we are now. The choices we made when we were younger, more ambitious, more certain of what we wanted, and less aware of what we were leaving behind. Meghan's choice to end her marriage to Trevor, the way she ended it, the timing, the rings in the mail, hurt a real person who loved her. That is documented. That is real. And it is part of her story in a way that no amount of royal reinvention can fully erase. But here is what is also true. Trevor Engelson survived it. He did not collapse under it. He did not sell his story or pursue revenge or spend years trying to reclaim the narrative. He built something new, something quieter, something that in its own way, 3 children, a loving marriage, a career he is proud of, looks a great deal like happiness. And Meghan, on the other side of her own journey, the palace, the Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, the cancer scare of a close friend, the fault lines in her own marriage, is also still here, still building, still choosing. Both of them, in their very different ways, are living proof that the stories we carry from our past do not have to define our future, that people can hurt each other and survive it, that new chapters are real, that happiness after heartbreak is possible. Trevor Engelson is not a footnote in Meghan Markle's story. He is the chapter that came before. And without that chapter, the story that followed it, the story the world fell in love with, would not exist at all. I want to leave you with one image. A dive bar in West Hollywood, 2004. A 23-year-old actress and a 28-year-old producer. No cameras, no crowds, no royal family watching. Just 2 people at the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted. 7 years of love. A beach wedding in Jamaica with 102 of the people they cared about most. A shared life that was real, however it ended. And then 2 paths that diverged so completely that by 2019 one of them was standing on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, and the other was getting engaged in Napa Valley 2 weeks later. Life is strange. People change. Ambitions evolve. And the person we love at 23 is not always the person our life turns out to need. Trevor Engelson knows that. He learned it the hard way. Through a divorce that blindsided him. Through rings arriving in the mail. Through years of silence while the world asked him to speak. And through all of that, he chose something that is genuinely rare. Dignity over profit. Privacy over fame. A new beginning over a story about an ending. He is the luckiest guy he knows. He said it himself. And looking at his life now, 3 children, a loving partner, a career, a quiet happiness that no tabloid can disturb, it is hard to disagree. This has been Royal Report Daily. And this is the story we will always try to tell. Not the version that sells. The version that is true. That is all for tonight's investigation on Royal Report Daily. If this video made you think, made you feel, or made you see this story differently, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it means everything to this channel. Subscribe if you have not already, and turn on notifications, because we post new investigations every week and you do not want to miss what is coming next. Share this video with one person who follows the royal story, because the more people who know the real truth, the better. I'm your host. This has been Royal Report Daily. Stay informed, stay royal, and I will see you in the next one.